have to go find them.
I think
They
so.
should be here soon.
Hermione can't draw. Hermione can't draw. Sorry.
Stop, you're not even at the Harry Potter panel.
Not even at the Potter panel.
I got asked if I was a goth kid.
Yes.
They were like, oh my god.
Just go darkness.
Yes.
Darkness is my only hope.
Star Wars is
Well, I guess since Marvel is with Disney, then Star Wars and could be Marvel, which means we should have Wolverine in the next Star Wars movie.
Lightsaber, no! No explanation, he just called it out.
Wait, there isn't a solo Wolverine. I could not stall any longer. I was making really bad jokes.
I'm losing the fingers.
Okay, cool. That's fine.
Come, hi everyone.
Captain Entertain, Vince, just for you. Captain Entertain. Aquaman is my favorite Avenger.
Alright. HMI.
Take a breath.
He's like dying.
No, I have stage fright. Plus, I don't like being late. It typically doesn't happen. West Broad Street is totally fucked. It's a T channel, so I can say. What's your favorite Marvel?
You get one.
And then it goes to an R-rated.
Okay.
2 minutes right now, mine's Deadpool and Captain America.
Captain America was one I was thinking, and I was like,
I used to always go with Deadpool. I used to actually not like Captain America.
Let me do the channel scan.
I can't wait for the next movie.
I'm actually excited to get it.
There we are.
Alright, cool. God is good every day.
The Spider-Man's supposed to make a cameo in Civil War.
Curios! Alright.
Anything we're just down the
Marvel got around it
Hi everybody.
many different versions.
My name is Vince, and hopefully we can get through a lot of things today. This is originally supposed to be a 2-hour panel, but due to scheduling issues, it is 1 hour, so I can promise you we're not going to get through the whole panel. Hopefully we can get through most of it though. Alright, couple rules. Let's keep our screaming to a minimum. Last time I had this panel, there was a lot of screaming that lasted a few minutes over different reasons, but I'm not going to trigger it. So let's get started.
Yeah.
All right, thank
My
you.
lovely son, maybe it's.
Wait, I have grandchildren?
Yes.
Hi, grandson.
Okay, that's weird. All right, here we go. So, some quick information about Marvel in general. The Marvel Universe is considered a multiverse. So for the purpose of saving confusion, we are going to be talking about the mainstream Marvel Universe Earth 616. The movies are their own separate universe, Earth with a bunch of nines. We are not discussing this universe in the panel, nor are we discussing Spider-Verse, the Ultimate Universe, stuff like that. How many, sorry. How many of you are here to learn about Marvel? Show of hands? Okay. How many of you are here to make sure I actually know my shit? Okay.
Is this the DC panel?
Batman is dead.
So am I.
Just kidding. Actually, we're going to find out that there are a lot of characters that you love that are dead. All right. Like Scott Summers. Very dead. So because of the vastness of the Marvel Universe, we're going big picture here. I'm not going to go through the gold and silver ages of Marvel, so the really old stuff. Instead, I'm going to be giving a kind of brief overview of the bigger teams in Marvel, the current rosters, some baddies, and we're going to talk about Deadpool. So, yeah. This panel is basically designed for you to jump in around Marvel Now. Personally, I started around Marvel Now, and then I started to move back into reading older comics. So kudos to you who started reading like way back in the 60s and are like in the 80s right now. I'm looking at the back. So yeah, good on you. Okay, so yeah. The Marvel Wiki is also super helpful for characters that you don't know too much about, minor characters, stuff like that. Yeah, alright. So, now we have the Avengers. First on the roster is Natasha Romanoff. Her real name is Natalia Romanova. her backstory is kind of something that has been varied as far as accounts go. Some say that she is related to the last great Russian Tsar. Some say that she entered the Red Room experiments as a part of, being an orphan, right? For lack of a better word. And next, we have Clint Barton. He's Hawkeye, and fun fact about Hawkeye, he is also deaf in the comics. He was raised by circus performers where he was taught his marksmanship. He is basically the best marksman in Marvel history, along with Bullseye, but Bullseye's a bad guy. That's the difference, I suppose. Also, if you guys have any questions as I'm going through about the characters, shoot them up and I can totally answer them. Huh? Oh, Matt Fraction's run of Hawkeye, best run of Hawkeye. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that the one where he's just a dude?
Well, he's always just a dude. Next we have Tony Stark, everybody's lovable douchebag. Yeah. Y'all know about Tony. I'm sure all of you guys have seen the movies. The movies do a good kind of. They do a good execution of Tony's backstory and stuff like that and his general character. I like movie Tony more than I like comic Tony. So that should really say something, because I really think Tony Stark is a dick. Next we have Steve Rogers, who is currently not Captain America, but still is involved with the Avengers at the moment. He really old. He actually lost his the super soldier serum, so now he's like rapidly aging and stuff like that, so he's old as balls, but he's still kind of directing the Avengers. Well, it's funny that you mentioned Falcon, because he is the current Captain America! Yay! Falcon, well, Captain America's Captain Falcon, get out. He, really interesting about him, he originally was captured by the Red Skull, and when he came across Captain America, while Captain America was fighting the Red Skull, thing that he does quite often, he ended up teaming up with Captain America, and he became a good guy. Now, originally he was like kind of seen as like a street level thug, but it's later found out that it was because he was mind controlled by some bad dudes. And he was always really a good guy in general. Yay. Here we go. Now this is the one that's going to take a minute to explain. Thor Odinson is no longer Thor, but Jane Foster is Thor as of right now in the comics. Thor lost his ability to, he lost his worthiness of the sword. The sword. He doesn't have a sword. His hammer. I don't really know anything. Lost his ability to wield the hammer in a fight with Nick Fury on the moon. So, it sounds ridiculous. The scene is ridiculous.
You said that so nonchalantly.
Well, that's what he was on the moon, so that's what happens. Stuff always happens. At the time, Jane was fighting breast cancer, and she was giving a Midgardian, Asgardian kind of speech about, connection and stuff like that. And after he lost his worthiness, she gained it. So Thor gave her his first name. So her alias is Thor, and his is Odinson. Yeah, pretty cool. Calm thine tits is basically the caption of this picture, I would say. Tap tap. And next we have Peter Parker. Okay, now how many of you guys do not know Peter Parker's backstory? Let's be honest. There have been
If you don't know his backstory, get out of here now.
Right.
Ben's gonna die again.
Go shoot Uncle Ben.
As Bryn said, Uncle Ben will get shot again if we have to do another backstory in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So, Peter Parker right now is actually CEO of Parker Industries, and he's not 16, he's more in his 30s. So, it's a good thing to know. Next we have Hank Pym. Now, I have a lot of feelings about Hank Pym, and none of them are good ones. But I will say that in the comics right now, Hank Pym himself is Ultron, because in Age of Ultron, he ended up bonding with Ultron. So he's listed on the Avengers roster, but he's not really an Avenger. Scott Lang is the current Ant-Man. Thought I would mention that. Yeah. If I'm going too fast or anything, and again, if you guys have questions, just let me know. Because I just don't want to read off the thing. I'm sure all of you guys can read. What's up?
I didn't know that Hank fusing with Ultron was in the main universe.
It is.
I thought it was a separate thing.
No, it's I think it was the 2012 run of Age of Ultron in which that happened.
Okay.
And that's what he's listed as in the 616 on the wiki.
Okay.
Here we have a bunch of past Avengers.
Let us mourn them.
They're still alive.
I know.
No mourning for the characters that are still alive.
Let's mourn Matt Murdock. R.I.P.
Smack you. All right, so now we get to go to the members with dual membership. That means members that are both Avengers and X-Men. And for the sake of simplicity, let's first go to Wolverine. He is dead in the comics.
R.I.P.
Adamantium Bath. Not very good. There was a really, really big 4-issue run called The Death of Wolverine in which he lost his healing factor, and he sort of started to, make amends with everything. But yeah, it ended with an adamantium bath, I know. He is one of the fan favorites, and I'm sure y'all already know about Wolverine. But I will say this, throughout history, his backstory has kind of been eh. As for the fact that he had amnesia for 25 years. I'm talking real years, not comic years. But after the events of House of M, he regains his entire memory. And he's old as balls, so that's a lot of memory. We're talking a couple hundred years here. Yeah. And next we have Wanda Maximoff, the Scarlet Witch. Yeah, if you like characters, you can feel free to clap, not crap.
Code Brown.
Well, if you insist.
Code Brown. Code Brown.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, it is a really good thing that your mic is off. So, Wanda Maximoff. Her thing, really, as of late, with a lot of the events, is her having more so mental health issues and losing control of her powers. That's the basis of House of M, which we're going to discuss in detail. She also, at one point, splits in two, and that is how we have two young Avengers, Wiccan and Speed, who are twins, and essentially have the same abilities as her and her brother. Now, Wanda technically isn't an X-Man, but when there are Avengers and X-Men events, it's usually an argument over, well, she's a mutant, yeah, but she's an Avenger, so it's our problem. No, but she's a mutant, so it's our problem. To abridge that completely. Yeah. And now we get to go to the X-Men. I really like the X-Men, so hopefully we won't drag this on too long. So first, we'll explain the mutant level power scale. According to Apocalypse, big baddie evil mutant, they're him really big. There are 4 different types of mutants. The X-Men in general fall between, every X-Man in general falls between Omega and Alpha. And Omega is basically the power scale in which you have complete control over your powers and you can also pass as a human. Alpha is right below Omega, meaning that you may have complete control over your powers, but you have a lack of being able to pass as a human, or you have issues controlling your powers. So when we go into the actual slides with the characters, Alpha and Omega is going to be listed before their powers so you know what kind of mutant they are. So I thought I would explain that. But yeah, there are most X-Men that you see, well, you probably won't see any X-Men in the comics that are beta and gamma, because those are D-list X-Men, I can make things smell like cinnamon rolls. That kind of mutation. Or has webbed feet. Or Oh, yeah. Well, he actually falls between alpha and beta.
Oh, okay.
So, okay, I lied a little bit. But still. Do we have a hand in the back? What's up?
I was just curious, what like differentiates beta and gamma? Like, I don't know.
Unfortunately, there isn't a lot of explanation in the comics nor on the wiki, the difference between beta and gamma. Sometimes mutants will fall between alpha and beta because of their inability to control things that it doesn't really matter if they control anyways. So like a beta mutant would not be human passing and would have no control over their abilities. Sometimes Wolverine is typically listed as an alpha mutant, but sometimes he is listed as a beta mutant because he doesn't have control over his regenerative healing factor. People like Deadpool, on the other hand, well, he's a mutate, not a mutant, and I'll explain that differentiation in a minute, but he has a psychological control over his healing factor. So, the more you know. He is insane. Him crazy. Next we have the Master of Magnetism, Magneto. Now, a lot of people consider Magneto to be a villain in the X-Men comics, but I think that it would be a better analogy to draw that he's like the Malcolm X of mutants rather than a baddie. Because at the end of the day, Charles and Eric want the same thing. Max Eisenhart is his real name, so that's why I've listed it as that, yeah. They both want the same thing, and that's, you know, mutant equality, or, you know, mutant superiority. But yeah, there's also a lot of confusion about the Maximoff, well, not really the Maximoff, but the Eisenhart-Lyncher family tree. So I drew one out for you guys. So the stars I have are around characters that are of his kin and are pretty prevalent in the comics. What's up?
Without spoiling, didn't they reveal somehow Magneto was, whoops.
You can spoil it, it's fine.
Didn't they reveal somehow that Magneto wasn't their father?
Yeah, sort of. What's up?
Isn't it that like Wanda said that I think it was like Wanda made it because that's what she does.
Yeah, Wanda is a reality bender. So when I explained House of M, which is a huge event in Marvel as of recent as in 10 years ago recent, you'll see that like Wanda can basically do anything that she wants, and it's terrifying. Yeah.
She did Vision somehow.
Well, Wanda and Vision kind of have a... They love each other very much. Now, Vision isn't really the father of Billy and Tommy, Wiccan and Speed. She split herself up, essentially. And she came back because she can do that. Because if characters are dead or gone in Marvel, they're never really dead or gone in Marvel.
They're in the universe somewhere.
They're in a universe somewhere. Yeah. So.
Then why is Vision on the graph?
Because they are mates.
That's weird.
Also, Lorna Dane is the daughter of Magneto, and she essentially has his powers, except her magnetic thing is flipped. And I know a lot of people have questions about how Magneto can fly. He rides the Earth's magnetic field, so the more you know. Huh? He rides the Earth's magnetic field, so it's actually not the suit. Like a lot of times people, like especially in the X-Men movies, they're like, oh, the helmet does everything and stuff like that, or at least that's how they make it seem in the movies. But yeah, it protects him from telepathy and stuff like that. Now we have Charles Xavier. I have a lot of mixed feelings about Charles Xavier, and if you want to talk to me about that in the panel, I'll trash him all day.
As you should.
He's also dead.
Good. Yeah.
What? Was Scott or something?
Yeah, we're actually going to get into the fact that Scott did kill Professor Xavier. Boom. He is the man with the plan, the man who founded the X-Men. Charles Xavier is basically the Martin Luther King to Eric's Malcolm X. Yeah. Another thing, Charles is an Omega level telepath, but as far as telekinesis goes, the most he can lift is like a book, if I'm 100% sure. Yeah, so here we go. We've got Scott Summers. Oh wow, people are actually moving! Oh my goodness!
Harley's side house is good. Cyclops 90.
My favorite, I'm telling you, just Cyclops post Avengers vs. X-Men. That's
No,
my favorite
no.
Cyclops. That's what made me love him. All right, Scott Summers, the first X-Man, and inarguably the best X-Man. Love him or hate him, he has a very pivotal role in the X-Men comics as he is the field leader. Now, a lot of things go down with Scott within the past few years, especially. And we're going to get to that when we go over Avengers vs. X-Men. He's an alpha level mutant, so yeah. He would have control over his optic blasts if it weren't for a brain injury that he acquired when he was 8. He had his mutant birthday, which is basically when a mutant has their powers, while falling out of a plane. Oh my goodness.
Fall out of the plane?
Electro did it.
Oh man, this is like Spider-Man all over
The
again.
universe doesn't like Scott Summers.
Big
Slide, we're done.
All right.
They're all like, screw you.
Right. Essentially, yeah. Next we have Jean Grey.
Why Summers?
She is sort of dead. She actually is in the White Hot Room, which when we go to explain the Phoenix, we will discuss that, so that'll come soon. She was the 3rd member to join of the original 5 X-Men, which, for your convenience, the original 5 X-Men are the first 5 X-Men I have listed. She is super well known for being the perfect host of the Phoenix. And when the Phoenix takes a human form, it usually takes Jean's form, because genetics. Right now, Jean is alive but dead. The thing about Jean is that she's kind of always dead, but like dead for a week. So several times throughout the comics, she will die and then come back and then die again, but only just